Hey there, welcome to Plateau Process. I am designing this channel to help provide resources and information for those good, stable, loving, providing parents who are active in their children's lives and have suddenly found themselves plunged into the family court process. It's a huge amount of drama. You've probably got no experience there. It might even be your first time in the court system. How you got here, who knows, but maybe it's a surprise betrayal by your wife or husband. Maybe it is a divorce you didn't see coming, or from an affair, something like that, or possibly a silver bullet order of protection from your co-parent, and maybe even your formerly peaceful co-parenting relationship has been interrupted by an abduction. Maybe your ex got a new partner from the internet in a new state and wants to pack the kids up and go, and doesn't want to go through the court process. So the first thing they got to do is rip the kids out of your fingers, and they're going to do that with some pretty dirty little tricks here. Now, let me describe what a silver bullet is, because I had never heard of it, and I've been fighting it in court for 6 months when I first heard the term. So, silver bullet is a nickname for a dirty little legal trick, and it really is the silver bullet, like the one thing that works every time. Now, this technique is growing in prevalence as our society, thanks to social media, grows a Hollywood-sized narcissistic ego. Me, look at me, I'm the only thing that matters. When people become their own self-gods, they stop treating other people with any sort of dignity or respect or consideration. So what happens is, in a silver bullet divorce, let's say, one parent, and let's call them the coercive controlling party, rather than trying to say the narcissistic or borderline, because when you walk into court using psychology terms and you're not a psychologist, that's going to be inadmissible. You are not qualified to testify as an expert. So when you are a lay person trying to give expert testimony, that's just one of the rules of evidence. It's objectionable. You're not going to be able to say, oh, so-and-so's a narcissist, unless they're diagnosed. And if they are, they evade diagnosis. So they're not going to have that diagnosis. And you're not at court for a therapy session. You're not at court to be understood. You're not at court to get them diagnosed. It's not going to happen. You're at court to defend an allegation. And what you can talk about as a defendant is extremely limited by the claims, by the allegations laid upon you. Now, this coercive controlling party, statistically, is going to be more female than male, but men do pull this as well. Cowardly men. They've decided that they're done with the relationship, often in secret, and they tend to be covertly manipulative, blame-shifting, self-victimizing, and so forth. And their public image is everything to them, even though who they really are behind closed doors, who sucks. And the exposure of that real person would destroy the public image that they depend on for extracting resources from unsuspecting outsiders, these shallow friendships. They're associates, they're flying monkeys. Now, this parent has decided that they want to leave you or break up with you or get away from you in some kind of way, or exploit you and punish you for vengeance. They do not wish to have a fair fight in the court system through hiring lawyers and honoring your due process rights, because, let's face it, they're going to have to pay attorney's fees perhaps for years to acquire child custody, to get their fair share of the division of the marital property, alimony, child support, inheritance of estates. There might be a risk of inheriting some or all of the joint marital debt. So these people have a lot of reason to not want to go and do this the honorable way. And they're going to, maybe they have a proven track record of substance abuse or financial recklessness, or maybe even psychotic behavior that will likely come out in a fair trial through discovery. So they are unwilling to share the children, and they're unwilling to be held accountable for their own actions. So they study up with their flying monkeys on how to become the ultimate victim, and that means that you have to become the ultimate abuser. So they start working on a PR campaign where you, who they have been abusing for 5, 10, 15 years, suddenly they start exposing the things that they kept hidden, and that you're the abuser and they're the victim. It's the exact opposite. It's just plain old, just a switcheroo. They concoct this plan to gain financial and custodial advantage by circumventing the legal system through an ex parte order of protection. Now, ex parte means one party in the legal world. This is when one party goes to a judge in secret and moves the court to issue an order about another party who has no idea that this is happening. The party that it's happening against, the targeted parent, they have no knowledge of the hearing, therefore they have no opportunity to defend themselves or face their accuser, so they discover that the order's been issued when the sheriff pulls up and serves them. That might be at Tractor Supply, and they can't go home. They can't go home to the house that they paid for. This could be a person that you could have owned a house for 10 or 20 years, married somebody for a year, and they can pull this, and now you have to pay to maintain your home, but you can't go home to it. Maybe you've got a business that operates out of the home. Maybe you've got a service truck full of your tools for your company. You can't go and retrieve it. I mean, this is extremely destructive, and it's intentional. This person is making up an emergency, so let's move on to that part. Now, if you do go home, you're going to get arrested. If you do contact the kids, you're going to get arrested. If you put your mom up to calling them or your friend up to calling them, you're going to get arrested, and that's a violation. So the ex parte order that you first get served, it's civil, but it's kind of quasi-criminal. As soon as you break the slightest little bit of it, it becomes criminal. So now you got real problems. Now this denial of your due process is an extreme violation of a person's right to liberty. So therefore, ex parte orders of protection, they're for emergency only. And I don't like my husband anymore is not an emergency. So an emergency has to be concocted by the person who determines that this is the route that they're going to take to gain advantage over you. Because all's fair in love and war. Especially love gone wrong. So introducing the provoke and record. Now, a provoke and record is just like it sounds. The manipulator baits the targeted parent into the manipulator's domain on their schedule when it's convenient for them, when they've got all their ducks in a row and everything's all set up. And the manipulator provokes and antagonizes a drastic and, angry response out of the targeted parent. Ideally, they're trying to get violence out of you. They're trying to be in your face, pushing your buttons, trying to get you to defend yourself on camera. And then the only thing that's going to be shown is that one snippet, taken out of context, cherry-picked, whack, of you smacking somebody. That's what they want. Do not ever hit a woman, guys. You're probably on recording if you ever think about it. Now, so this incident is captured for reporting of domestic abuse, domestic violence, family violence, whatever the terminology is in your jurisdiction. He put me in fear for the safety of my children. Arrest this man, officer. They call 911. They make false reports. They speak through your children like a ventriloquist, and they petition the court to grant a domestic violence restraining order, or an OP, or a TRO, temporary restraining order, domestic DVRO, I think is California. Every state calls it a little different, but it's the same idea. And this really came out of the OJ era, when the courts started thinking, wow, we have to protect women from, clandestine, quiet, behind closed doors violence. So by now the system's gone too far in the wrong direction, and it's starting to hurt society by hurting the children that are becoming grown adults that are supposed to be functional and healthy and whole and able to produce so that our system can be supported by the taxation of a productive generation to pay for the generation that's going out. The generations coming in have to be producers. But if the kids are in therapy sucking their thumb all their lives from all of this child trauma, from manipulative parent attacking their other parent, our whole fabric of society unravels and falls apart. And I think if you can't see it now, you're probably just plain blind. So what ends up happening is, like I already said, dad can't come home for a year, you can't call the kids, the grandparents get cut off, the guns are taken, the child support is issued just by checking a box. There's anger management classes, the whole 9 yards. Now, the very best covert manipulators, they will groom and condition the children to be the ones who do the actual provoke and record unwittingly. The kids will be believing that it was their own free will and you just popped off. But really, the alienating parent has been conditioning and encouraging through unspoken mechanisms to get the kids to go against probably you, the viewer. Or maybe it's your son or your grandson or your cousin, maybe some loved one or a friend of yours. Maybe you're the one watching because you're somebody you know is going through this. So link them to my videos and let's see if we can help them out together. So the reason that the alienating parent is going to turn the kids against the other parent is so that the children can now catch the blame. This creates a layer of isolation. It gives the controlling, coercive parent, the manipulator, covert manipulator, it gives them plausible deniability. So they can still say, oh, not me, Your Honor, I'm the victim, I was abused, so-and-so is just so mean, they're so mean. Now, when you go to court, you're going to court for your hearing. See, your ex parte hearing is going to come by law within 2 weeks. See, because they've suspended your very critical fundamental rights to liberty for emergency purposes, they have to restore your liberty promptly. The government has to. So every state is going to have a hearing within 2 weeks where you get to show up, face your accuser, present your evidence. The problem here is you are presenting your evidence as a defendant. The plaintiff is your accuser. The abuser is the plaintiff. Now the abuser gets to lay accusations on you, and the only thing you get to talk about is defending the accusations. So if they say, on such and such a date, Dad barged in and spanked the kid, put the kid in fear, put the kid in threat, did this, did that. You can't talk about what the ex has been doing for 6 months to set this up. It's going to be objected to for relevance. The burden of proof is on the plaintiff. But if you can't mount a good defense, it's automatically assumed when you walk in with testicles, it's automatically assumed that you are the abuser. Trust me, that's not legal, but that's the standard. That's what realistically happens. You are automatically the dangerous, abusive party because you are a man. So you are now guilty until proven innocent, and you can't prove you are innocent by showing a setup because you're not going to be able to talk about things that happened any other day but the day that you got walked into the ambush. So this is what a provoke and record does. It walks you into a window where you can't, or a bag even, or a box that you can't fight your way out of. Because anything outside the box where the provoke and record was taken is irrelevant. It's not relevant. Objection, relevance. How does your ex rounding up all of the proof of 15 years or 20 years or 30 years of abusing you just before this, how is that relevant to whether or not you did what you're accused today? It's not relevant. And the judge is going to sustain the objection. So you can't defend yourself. So you've been being abused for the entire duration of this marriage. You've stayed in the marriage and endured the abuse to protect the children, to provide for the children, right? You've been frustrated for the entire duration of the marriage. Now this person has gone off the deep end. They're openly trying to destroy you. And you're thinking all along, like Perry Mason or something, like some court TV show, that you're going to walk in and tell Judge Wapner what's up. And he's going to be like, oh, dismissed, get out of here. And cuff her, she's going to jail. It's not going to happen. Instead, what's going to happen is you're going to try to tell your story. You're going to say, I've got all that proof and evidence in the world right here. You're not going to be able to get that proof in because her dirtbag lawyer is going to silence you. They're going to put a muzzle on you. Every time you try to speak, they're going to interrupt you. Objection, objection, objection. And it's going to be sustained, sustained, sustained. And you're going to get frustrated and you're going to pop off. You might even cuss in front of the judge, and that's exactly what this combo of dirtbag ex and dirtbag attorney want you to do. They want you to pop so they can say, look, Your Honor, there's the anger management problem. That's how this works. And it seems to be working every time. I do not find, in my state, I'm not finding any case law that shows a finding of false reporting. Even though that is a major factor in the statutes, I'm in the state of Tennessee, so I can primarily help and coach parents that are dealing with the Tennessee codes and statutes and rules of civil procedure, rules of juvenile procedure, rules of evidence, and so forth. Holler at me if you need some coaching. I'm very affordable. I can't give you law. This is not legal advice. This is life advice. This is common sense life advice and experience, first-hand experience of what the system is like. So you can think of me as a big brother. You can't think of me as an attorney. Now, all of this stuff tears the kid in multiple pieces. It rips the child in half because the child is being convinced one parent is all good and the other parent is all bad. And that child is made up of both parents. So the easiest thing for that child to do is not look at the part of itself that is made of bad parent. The easiest thing is to erase bad parent so that if I'm the child, I'm not made of half bad. Because the adult who is doing this, the manipulator who's doing this, probably suffers from a personality disorder that's undiagnosed, somewhere in the cluster B range, and probably has paranoid schizoid mental construction. So I'm not going to get too far into that, but basically that means black and white, all good, all bad, all or none behavior, mental perspective. So they see themselves sometimes as all bad and they should just kill themselves. But the organism, the person, the human wants to survive. So they find ways to get that thought out of their mind, and then they start seeing themselves as angels, as only good. There's no bad in me. I've gotten rid of my bad, my sins, my evils, by forcing them down into the shadow and then eventually projecting them onto people around me. So they become the person who accuses everyone of doing the exact things that they do. That's how a paranoid schizoid construct copes with this thing that they can't do, which is integrate. So they have a split. They have a psychological split. It's called splitting. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but psychologists call it splitting. When a child can't reconcile that every human has good and bad, and that it's integrated in one human. So human growth is a case of realizing, facing, and seeing a true reflection of ourselves, and realizing there are bad characteristics in me, and I don't like that. But I'm not all bad. There are good characteristics in me too, and I can integrate those things. That's what growth is, when a person can integrate their good and their bad. If you can't integrate good from bad, you can't grow. And that's where your narcissistic personality disorders have extremely childish behavior if they're pressured enough. They want to grab their ball and go home and scream, "You started it." That's how they are, because there's still a wounded child in there that developed 10-year-old defense mechanisms and never became a 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old. Now, all of this stuff is really harmful on your children's psychological development. They're being modeled extremely self-damaging behavior that is not serving the best interest of the child in the long run. This provoke and record silver bullet thing is it's an extremely malicious act, but it's also a crime. There's usually custodial interference involved. There's usually aggravated perjury. There may be criminal conduct for behavior of another or for acts of another. I mean, it's going to depend on your state. There's often reckless behavior or reckless child endangerment, aggravated reckless child endangerment. That's all stuff that we're going to talk about in future videos. This one's getting long enough. You're going to have to like, subscribe, and follow for me to get into that stuff. I'm here to tell you as a survivor and a pro se litigant that this can be fought pro se if you have the right guidance, persistence, and determination. AI levels the playing field. Free AI. You don't need to pay. You need to have a computer, a printer, Wi-Fi, paper, ink. I mean, if you were really determined, you could probably actually do it all with a phone by going to Staples and printing stuff. So there's a process, and what you need to learn is the process. You are not going to walk in, talk like a normal person, whip your phone out, and walk out the victor. You are going to lose. You have to know the process, and you have to play the game by the process. Now, if you had the money to hire an attorney to sort this out for you, you would have had the money to pay that bitch off and send her on her way. But you don't. You didn't then, and you don't now. So I'm not saying that attorneys don't serve a purpose, but I am saying that I've never seen a pro se litigant rack up $80,000 or $100,000 in debt fighting unsuccessfully for years to get their custody back. So I see it all the time with parents who go and hire the big name attorney. And the reason being is that family court and custody fights and divorce fights, specifically the counsels that go into that line of work, are notorious for churning cases. They are not trying to get a quick, swift win that's efficient for your pocketbook. They're trying to get one that's efficient for their own mortgage. You can't claim you're the best interest of the child if you lose your house by not paying your mortgage because you are paying the attorney's mortgage and they don't win for you. So get that notion through your head. You may lose everything and owe a house payment to an attorney. That can't happen pro se. You don't need to hire somebody to screw your case up for you. You are perfectly capable of screwing it up for yourself. But you don't have to screw it up. The choice is yours. Your level of diligence and study and preparation, your ability to have self-control and to choose your words wisely completely dictates, or really considerably dictates, the outcome in any of these court settings. You absolutely are entitled to equal treatment as a pro se litigant as if you were an attorney. You are entitled by law. In the state of Tennessee, they got the Court of Appeals at Nashville. And at the case of John Allen Hesmer versus Rosa Blanca Hesmer, Section 2 of that finding has got a whole mountain of intertwined case law talking about your rights as a pro se litigant, all the things that you are entitled to. You are entitled to not waive any of those rights either. You do not need an attorney. You need to know the process if you want to win. You do not need an attorney to enter into the ring and fight for your kids. And there's nothing better for you to be able to stand on than an absolute record. I don't just mean your words someday if you ever see them again. I mean a record that anybody in the world can go to the clerk of courts and look up and see and search that you fought for your kids for as long as it took. So you might not see your kids for a while. You might win, you might get them back soon. But if you've got this dream in your head that you're going to walk in, say a couple words and walk out with your children, I hate to burst your bubble, but that's not usually how it goes. Now, what else? Well, anyhow, I mean, that's probably enough. If you're going to be ignorant of the process, then you are completely at the whim of hiring an attorney who's just as manipulative as your ex and having no idea that when you walk into that first hearing, $1,000, I'll show up at your case and I'll represent you. You will not be able to tell for 6 months or a year that attorney you hired made every effort not to win on the first go-around, but they made every effort to perfect a wonderful record on appeal, because their goal was not that $1,000 for one day. Their goal was that $4, $5, $6, $10,000 for 2 levels of appeal. Billable hours. That's what it's about. Attorneys are the only people who get to charge up front for not fixing the problem. If I told you that I'm a plumber, if I told you every plumber out there had the opportunity to bill you up front for your backed up toilet, show up to your house, open up their doors on their van, open up a toolbox drawer or two, walk in, walk out, and then leave, keep your money, and the toilet be just as backed up as before, and walk away and you can't sue them, would you hire a plumber or would you learn how to plumb for yourself? You would learn how to plumb for yourself. If the luck of the draw was, it's 5,000 down and you might win, you might not. The toilet might be flooded across into your kitchen or it might drain. You got to pay me to find out. Wouldn't you put a little bit of effort in? In my mind, that's what a reasonable and diligent and good parent, that's what the parent who is in the child's best interest would do. They would learn it themselves. And when you learn the law yourself, you get to demonstrate to your ex, this courtroom is not the place where you want to F with me. So that is a further disincentive. When your ex realizes that you're capable of writing subpoenas, serving subpoenas, fighting quash motions, compelling discovery, compelling testimony, when moving the court, when you demonstrate to your ex that you can move the court for free and that you might be able to win and that you're not going to quit until you win, that you're going to keep kicking this can down the road on appeals until you prevail and they have to pay their own attorney because you're not going to lose and get stuck with attorney's fees, they're going to start thinking, man, this might not work so good for me because my attorney's $300 an hour. That's what your manipulator is paying. And they're thinking that they're going to win this case, they're going to prevail, and their attorney's fees will be charged to you because that's what's also in the statutes on orders of protection. No one who gets an order of protection granted shall have to pay for the order of protection or the lawyer or the discretionary costs. It gets dumped on the abuser. If you show up and quit and they win, you're paying their attorney. You have to keep going to court and you have to prove that they were making false reports. And that is not an easy thing to get your attorney to do for you unless you pay them a fortune of money. Because what they're doing is going against a colleague. Your attorney and your ex's attorney are colleagues, and so is the judge. The whole system makes sure that they churn that cash pot, that they don't go for the throat, quick kills, they don't rock the boat. You do not have enough money to pay an attorney to violate their own self-interest by rocking the boat with your judge or with your adverse counsel. You don't have that much money. The only person who can rock that boat, who can make your judge follow the law, who can make the other counsel follow the law, who can hold them accountable, who can perfect the record for appeal affordably. The only person who can plead your case as good as you is you. So, subscribe to me, and I will help you become that pro se litigant. Appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. God bless you, and praise the Lord.